Hey guys, Miss Shar, you just completed our gem and fossil dig, so let's learn about what you found. Let's start with quartz. So we have a really clear quartz piece here, and we have a less clear piece. The only difference between this one and this one is that this one here has more cracks and bubbles inside. That makes it less see-through. So just like an ice cube, the more you crush it, the less you can see through it. Kind of the same thing with quartz. But what's really cool about those cracks is that they do create what's called a prism or a rainbow inside. So some of your quartz might have some rainbows. Take them outside in the sun, turn them around, and see if you have any rainbows in yours. Next, we'll talk about smoky quartz. So smoky quartz is the same type of stone as our clear quartz, just a different color. It's going to range anywhere from very light brown to very dark brown. The only difference between the two is that when smoky quartz was forming, it had aluminum mixed with the radiation in the ground, which gave it a brown color. Second stone is attached here to our smoky quartz. That is our black tourmaline. You're going to be able to tell black tourmaline because it's going to be very dark in color, and it's going to have lines on it, which are called striations. All right, next is obsidian. And obsidian is not a rock or a crystal, it's actually volcanic glass. So what happened was that the lava poured, and you can kind of see here the ripples, and then it cooled so fast that crystals couldn't form and became a glass. So you can see here it started forming glassy around all this ash here. So obsidian is volcanic glass. Then you found probably a crystal tip. Yours is likely much smaller than mine. Crystal tips can range anywhere from very small to very large in size, even as big as this whole room. Quartz forms into a crystal tip form. If you have pieces of quartz that don't have a tip on it, just means it came from a larger crystal tip. All right, let's talk about biotite. Biotite is its own type of mineral. It's actually a very flimsy, weak mineral because of its bonds inside. You might have a piece that looks like this, or you might have a piece of it attached to something like quartz or feldspar. So this is a book of biotite. It's several sheets that have grown on top of each other. And then this here is a piece of biotite that's attached itself to quartz on the front, the back, and even in the middle. All right, let's start talking about our fossils. So our first is going to be our gastropod fossil, just a fancy name for a snail. Just like today, there's sea snails and there's land snails, and this one was a sea snail. Next, we have our brachiopod. So a brachiopod is sort of like a mussel or a clam. It is its own type of species, and it had a little living organism inside that had a filtration system where it would draw in water and it would get food particles that way. So it did come from the sea as well. Next is our shark's tooth. So this comes from an extinct shark called a squally corax, or its nickname was the crow shark. The reason why is because he was a scavenger, so he would swim on the bottom of the ocean and pick up all the remaining little bits of food from bigger predators. Next, let's talk about petrified wood. So just like other fossils, wood became fossilized as well, got covered up by the ground before it could decompose, and between the minerals in the ground and the minerals that came from rain and water, over millions of years, it turned hard into a rock and is now a fossil. Speaking of trees, let's talk about our amber. So amber did come from trees. It's actually tree resin. So just like when you get scratched and you get a boo-boo, that's kind of what happens with trees. They would get scratched. The resin would come out of the tree, kind of protect that spot that got scratched. This piece here has a few bugs inside. So when it was wet and tacky millions of years ago, bugs or other things like plants, spiders, tarantulas, you name it, got stuck inside of the amber and became fossilized as well. All right, our last sea fossil is our crinoid. So you guys probably have a piece that would have come here from the stem. That's how they would attach themselves to the ocean floor. So sort of like a mix between a sea anemone and a starfish is the crinoid. So thank you so much for doing our dig. We can't wait for you guys to check out some of our other ones.